Thank you, Luis, for the introduction. Yes, I will go to the particular policy for the publishing industry. I start from my experience in the Italian case. I would like to thank Anne to have mentioned Italy as a good policy during the pandemic. That's true, but I will reveal some secrets how we obtained this kind of policy. But also from my experience at European level, I'm engaged with the FEP since many years. First, you have been mentioned very often Aldo Sapis. This is a way for me to also thank the European Commission to co-fund this project, but I will not spend so much time for that. Luis, when I invited me to this, I also asked me 5 statements about the topic of my presentation, and then I decided to use those statements as the summary of the agenda. And I will start with an element that is the importance on one side, but also the limits of the public intervention in our sector, which is a delicate point, and it is important to stress also the limits that the intervention should have. The statement, in fact, there was that any public support to the sector should minimize the level of discretion by the government. So, as much as possible, the subsidies, for instance, should not be based to the quality of the books, because at that point there should be someone in the government or in a public sector to decide what is good and what is bad, which is never a good idea. And should be neutral, also to support at the same time a very good literature, and also, like Anne did with his son, the mangas. So there should not be difference, because it is not the government that should decide what is worth to be supported and what is not. And for this, we have traditionally the reduced VAT rate for books, for instance, is a measure that is completely neutral. And also the fixed book price is a measure that is a policy that is completely neutral. The main consequence of this aspect is that supporting the demand is much more effective and useful than subsidizing the publishers. This is one of the secrets of our success also in Italy. When we went to the government saying, okay, in the very middle, you know that Italy was the first country in Europe affected to the pandemic, and in March was a very dramatic moment. We didn't know what would happen in the rest of the year, and all the industries were asking the government subsidies to survive. We went to the government with 2 elements. One, following the Simone's statement, we went together with the bookseller and librarians, which is quite important because it's unusual. And that was the first point. The second point was, say, we don't want money directly for the publisher, for us. Please put the money in the market, and the market will do the job of also helping us. And this was very much appreciated by the government. And there are measures that have been first launched in Italy, like the Pass Culture now in France, that was anticipated, what we call 18 app, 18 app application, and is now in progress to be a reality also in France, in Spain. And the library purchases that we had was 30 million by the Italian government given to the public libraries to buy books in the local bookshops, which was very important for helping the market. This does not mean that subsidies are always to be avoided, but should exist a very clear rationale behind the subsidies. That cannot be the quality of the production, for the reason I explained before. And the best is about innovation. And again, it's something that is linked with the Simone's presentation. And supporting the innovation is is one field where it's easier to be neutral. We are negotiating this moment with the Italian government a scheme for a tax credit related to investments in software innovation in the publishing industry, including the entire sector, including the retailers and the distributors possibly. Then the second instrument, apart the subsidies, is the regulation. And of course, copyright is the most important. And freedom of expression, linking to the Christian's presentation, is the second. And in my view, which is very important, is to be clear that those two are strictly linked. We had a very bad period during the negotiation of the DSM directive years ago when the GAFAs, the big platforms, were claiming that increasing copyright protection was a way for limiting the freedom of expression. It is like, for me as a representative of publisher, it's like to say to a priest that he doesn't believe in God. It's something really impossible to be accepted. I have this, I like very much this quote by Elimir Zola that explains very clearly at the end of the 19th century, which is the relation between the copyright and freedom of expression. It's the way for the authors, first, to say everything. Il a osé tout dire. Il a porté son examen partout jusqu'au roi, jusqu'à Dieu. My French is horrible. So criticizing also the God and the king. And this is very important. The third element, particularly important at this moment, is competition policy, because of the intervention of the big platforms in our sector, as in all the creative sectors. That's the new challenge in the web economy, and this is something that we have to approach with a combination of policies. There is one point that is very important in my view in the next couple of years in the debate in Europe and in the member states. It's about the data, the control of data. This would be I can speak for hours about that, but I need to say in a few minutes. I collected some quotes in the economic literature about that. The point is that the control of data by the big platforms is the reinforce their power, and there is a vicious circle, because the higher is the control, the more effective are their services. So the more effective are their services, they collect more data, and et cetera, et cetera. And all the other players in the market are weakening day by day because of this control of data. The control of data for the future and the algorithms for artificial intelligence, etc., is the key part. It is the next most important challenges, in my view, that we have to take care in terms of policy. In conclusion, we need a holistic approach. I mentioned several policies. The key point at this moment in the internet, that is with the convergence that the digital things and the internet in particular bring also in the politics, is that to combine different policies to solve the problems. My inspiration is a wonderful article by Jean Tirole, which is a Nobel Prize of Economics. He was suggested that the only way for regulating the disruptors, as is the title of this article, is to put together and make synergies between different policies. There are examples also in our sector. If you think to the DSM directive, is explicitly a market regulation done through the rules related to the copyright, which is new. So in understanding at a certain point that protecting copyright is a way for having a more pluralistic, not just more creativity, but a more pluralistic market, which is quite a new aspect that was raised with the terminology value gap some years ago. Second, example is the way the pass culture has been implemented in France with the limits to buy online, or etc. That's a way you can agree or not to the specific measure, but it's a way to say we have to combine the market regulation and the subsidies of the support of demand, which is another point very important. There are negative examples. For instance, the Marrakesh Directive and the European Accessibility Act are the two main regulations related to the book accessibility of books, and there was never a coordination between the two, which is a disaster. Or also, the innovation policy, which is very important for increasing the competitiveness of our industry, has been never related to the DSM directive, which was had the same objective at the same moment. And this is another negative history. The next big challenge is artificial intelligence, and there is a need of coordination with many other instruments like the GDPR that also deal with data, the Article 3 and 4 of the DSM directive that are known as text data mining, that is always the same. And with the current discussion about the DMA, Digital Market Act, there are many areas where the same things are regulated in a separate way. If we are not able to put together, create synergies, we will never achieve the objective that we have in mind. There is an important ERC project in progress that I suggest to look after in the next months. Is led by the University of Bristol, and there are some quote for that. And these are if you distribute some bibliographic references, because we are in the book sector and we have these strange manias. And an invitation, I conclude with an invitation to the next book fair in Rome, that is at the beginning of December. If you like to join us, we are very glad for your visit. Thank you very much.
Please, Simone and Kristen, join us. I will be in the book fair in Rome, with you. So thank you very much. I think it's time for coming back to the events. Just two little issues. There is a tension between what sometimes the publishing industry asks to the public administration and the limits. You were talking more or less the same than Kristen. How this could be linked also with the digital and the control of the data. Do you have in your forum this also this approach? I mean, the impact of the digital acceleration against the freedom of speech?
Well, you know, it is this dilemma that on the one hand, there's a platform for everybody to express what you want to express. On the other hand, it is used in different ways. It's used by those who operate those platforms. And we still haven't found out how to regulate and how we should do this. Should Trump be kicked out of Twitter or should he not? I mean, there's a lot of dilemmas here. So, but also we know that the platforms do aggregate a lot of pressure on authors and publishers and even booksellers through pressure groups. They can be very effective and are stressing everybody in our value chain really on developing perhaps the most important thing that we do, something that challenges the society. So we haven't worked it out, and this is one of the things we want to work on. It needs to studies, much more studies that we have, and then try to see if we can give some inspiration to what can be done.
Yes, because when we decided to use Janus Scott as a symbol. It was because we were convinced that previously 1 year ago, we thought that we will have a catastrophic year in markets and in behavior. And okay, I was very optimistic, but one day Piero Attanasio told me, okay, have you read this paper, this speech by our president of the PA? And it was very interesting because there is another side of the data that we had during the last year. And it's more or less, let's say, the darker side. No? For instance, in Spain, we had a fairly good figures result, but mostly because the role of a very big platform, Amazon. So this is a big push for them. What do you think, Piero? What do you think about this?
Yes, this accelerated some trends that were already in the air. It happened. It happened also in Italy, and also some measure of the government. That's probably also the reason why the French then did a different way. So we calculated that possibly 70 or 80% of our past culture went to Amazon because the young boys. They mostly bought books during the more or less 80% of the expenditure by the young people went to books last year, but 90% of that probably went to Amazon. And this is an acceleration, and this is also the reason why we need to have new policies. And it's a legacy, and it's not going back, at least in this year, and probably we will not go back. There is a good side. It seems that there are additional sales for publishers, but there is the best side when we have a monopolistic market where you have too much power in one retailer. It can be a problem, in particular in the medium and long term. So we need new policies for that. And okay, there is always something some rule for the policy, I would say.
Well, you are talking to a lawyer. From one point of view, I think that we need a new regulation to keep the play level field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A new policy, comprehensively, it's not just a matter of a single new regulation, probably, because it's a matter of regulating the way the data are managed. It's a matter of regulating the having instruments within other measures that go in the same direction, etc. It's not just changing the antitrust law that also needed. That is also needed. Jean Tirole says very clearly. But it's not the only
Okay,
thing.
then in short, let's say that it's not only regulation, so the European cultural industries can do many things.
Yep.
For instance, in our manifesto in 2019, we stressed the fact of the silo approach of the CCI in Europe. Simone, how do you see this as a way to complement the regulatory new policy from inside the publishing industry?
Well, in general, I think this is one that's actually the approach, saying if we collaborate not only inside the publishers, also I think this is very crucial that we all work together, but if you have a look also outside of your silo, then you can set, and I think we already had this discussion this morning or yesterday, actually it's all about if you work together and you set something against, the bad gaffers and everything, then you can really change, because you can bring together the creators and set an extra pole against it. So this is what I think comes together if you have also the air to breathe, which means resources, honestly speaking. So it's always a thing about money. If you want to have people to work together, if they just don't always have to think about how much money will they have at the end of the day to make their living. And if you have this space to really put all your ideas together, see what do the others already create, what can we profit from, seeing this very especially in Creative Shift. And it gives a complete new horizon. So I think this is one of our possibilities that we can set against like big platforms saying, okay, we are also super creative people. And of course, it's never black and white. It's a grayish situation.
So if we, coming back to the Rudiger's presentation, one of the process that we are witnessing is, merging of publishing groups. But I suppose that another way to evolve, Kristen, is to collaborate or even join forces between publishing and other cultural industries. Do you think it's possible in Europe?
Well, I think it's possible. I could just mention an example in Norway. Everybody is obviously working on the SDGs, as you were talking about. I mean, this is something we're going to be measured on in the publishing industry in the years to come. And obviously, one key factor is the climate part of it. Just after the meeting in Glasgow. So what we managed to do in Norway was to get together the creative industries and try to make a green roadmap for the creative industries, actually giving advices to the writer, the actor, to the producing company in film, to the publisher, and so on, the whole creative industries, dividing it into these target groups. It's a start. I mean, it's not complete, but it's a start, and it gives you a possibility. And now we are working on a climate calculator, see if we can sort that out so that you can, in an easy way, try to check out what you're doing and what you can change. So it's just an example. I think when the creative industry pull together, we have so much in common. And I used to say, if you have 90% in common, you can leave the rest 5% and discuss that another day. So I think that's a kind of approach that is important. And I think especially on all these SDGs, I think it's important that we get together.
Yeah. Very interesting. A very good example. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you.